Since the 1950s, the United States has been in awe and in wonder of the martial arts from the Far East. Today, karate and kung fu have become part of our language, culture, and media. But this did not happen without the efforts of some extraordinary people and good fortune. For many of us, it all started here. For others, it was a stop on a journey that had already begun. New York City's 1964 World's Fair. It was a venue that brought many cultures and corporations together to present the best of their ideals and products to the general American public. The House of Japan exhibit was no exception. Here, martial artists from Shōrinji-ryū Kenkokan Karate displayed their skill for all to see. This style of karate featured an amalgam of empty-handed fighting arts, a vertically opposed punch, protective equipment, and a motto: spiritual development of individuality in mind and body. For many in the audience watching, the lightning-fast punches and kicks captured their imagination as well as their curiosity. Where did Shōrinji-ryū originate? What are this style's strengths? What differentiates Shōrinji-ryū karate-do? What attracts people to this martial art? Will this form of karate last in a new millennium? What is truly the character of Shōrinji-ryū karate-do? My name is Tache Vincent Capers Jr., and the purpose of this program is to chronicle and explore the history, training, and techniques of Shōrinji-ryū karate-do. A tree is as strong as its roots. A building is as strong as its foundation. So is true for a form of self-defense. Shōrinji-ryū karate-do originates from Okinawa. The Okinawans suffered from numerous invasions. In 1407, the first ban on weapons was placed in effect. But in 1609, Tokugawa shogun ordered his defeated enemy, the Satsuma clan, to invade Okinawa, and thus took complete control from the Okinawans. At this point, a complete ban on all weapons was imposed. The Okinawans were left with farm and fishing implements, such as staff, pitchfork, oar, fishing trident, flail, and the human body. As these forms of self-defense were perfected, several methods and theories developed, and these fighting techniques and concepts eventually became known as karate. Masayoshi Koryu Sadaka originated Shōrinji-ryū karate-do in 1946. In recognition, his students call him Shinan, which means founder. Shinan Sadaka was born Seki Kadaka in Naha, Okinawa on April 22, 1907. To prepare him for adulthood and to protect himself and his family, Shinan Sadaka commenced his martial arts training at an early age. He trained with several instructors, but his primary influence was Shotoku Kaien. Mr. Shotoku Kaien emphasized the superiority of evasion and footwork over blocking, introduced Karunanku, and instilled virtue and awareness into his students. Mr. Kaien was also an instructor of Tsuyoshi Chuchoshi, founder of Chito-ryu. Shoshin Nagamine, founder of Masubashi-ryu. And Tatsu Shimobuku, founder of Isshin-ryu. As a young adult, Shinan Sadaka enlisted in the military and was stationed in China, Russia, Afghanistan, Mongolia, and Japan as well. All the while, he publicly demonstrated karate, increased his martial arts knowledge, and improved his technique. At the start of World War II, Shinan Sadaka was stationed in Manchuria. His primary responsibility was to protect several railway stations. Fierce battles between the Japanese, Chinese, and Russian armies often erupted with dire consequences. Shinan credited his martial arts training with giving him the focus and confidence to protect himself and many in his command during extremely dangerous and stressful situations. After the war, Shinan returned to Japan. He found his country devastated by the aftermath of atomic weapons. And his fellow countrymen demoralized by the war's outcome. Shīnen took this as an opportunity to use karate to revitalize his country's spirit and return Japan to the glory it once had known. Shīnen Hisataka founded the first Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do dojo in Oshima Park, Hamana Village, Kumamoto Prefecture, Kyushu, 1946. Since then, the Hanbu Dojo has moved to the Waseda area of Tokyo's Shinjuku ward, where it remains today. Shīnen Hisataka, through his life and death experiences, had found weaknesses in the early forms of karate. His primary focus became eliminating those deficiencies. His study of many Asian fighting arts gave him the knowledge to eliminate the impractical. The result, Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do, is ideal. Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do is a combination of striking, throwing, holding, and choking techniques. In addition, protective equipment prearranged self-defense drills, and weapons are included in the curriculum. With such a broad spectrum, students of Shōrinji-ryū are capable of adapting to any situation with confidence and a resolute attitude. Rinche Brian Bierenbach from the Stelton County Community Center, the only American to receive both his first and second degree black belts from Shinan Hisataka, recounts his experiences.
Well, I would have liked to have seen Hisataka Sr., Dr. Corey Hisataka, in his prime do something. I don't care anything, you know, say hello or... I saw him as an elderly man, and even as an elderly man, he was unbelievable. I would have loved to have seen him do a form or do Shiai, say at the age of 30 or 35. He was an unbelievable athlete. I can't imagine anyone wanting to fight him. But it would have been nice to have seen. I assume if he promised them he wouldn't hurt them before they started, maybe. But I would have loved to have seen him in his prime. Or when he first started the Shōrinji-ryū school, I would have loved to have been there on the first day that it opened. Because he was a bit gruff in his approach to people. I mean, people adored him. He was a wonderful man, but he was a bit gruff. Kind of like the what do you call it, the person with the rough exterior with the heart of gold type of individual. And if he felt that you weren't living up to your maximum, he might do something about it. But physically, he was a very imposing individual. He was built like a bull, and his techniques were absolutely incredible.
Shinan Hisataka dedicated his life to developing and educating people in Karate-do. His students include people from all walks of life, and they developed a deep respect for him as a karateka, instructor, and human being. Shinan Masayoshi Kori Hisataka passed away on August 18, 1988. He is survived by his art, and his legacy is in the students of Shōrinji-ryū. Today, Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do is actively practiced in Russia, Australia, India, Canada, the United States, Japan, and expanding into other areas of the globe because of organizations like the Shōrinji-ryū Shinzen Kyokai. Kyoshi Myron Lubitsch, president of the Shōrinji-ryū Shinzen Kyokai, explains the origins and the purpose of his organization.
Quite a long time ago, I had never liked the concept that the organization had split for political reasons. The original Japanese apparently could not coexist with each other. Their culture was totally different. When they came over, they brought some of their theories with them. Didn't work. They themselves ended up splitting. Their split caused the students to split. One of the premises of the Shinzen organization is that we try to maintain autonomy of the individual schools. It's an umbrella organization, it's a friendship organization, therefore we don't dictate policy for the individual schools. We don't walk out onto that Shiai-do and see the vast number of black belts, the high-ranking instructors, the heads of the dojos, all together in a common bonding of friendship. It was totally overwhelming. It is our desire of the organization to maintain that kind of feeling, that kind of spirit of friendship, getting together, that which was not possible in the past because of petty politics. But as for this 50th anniversary, it was an incredible feat, and it's going to be well remembered by all who did attend.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first. For the martial artist, it is the training that sets them on a path of self-discovery and gently guides them through life's journey. The paths we choose determine our happiness and well-being. But for the martial artist, it is the instructor who sets the path the student must follow. For Shōrinji-ryū karate though, what is essential is that the training be well thought out, challenge the students physically, mentally, and spiritually, and be practiced wholeheartedly by the student. But before any of this can begin, an instructor must be chosen. Rinzai Eric Derivan from Shōrinji-ryū Kenrokan Karate was the third person in the United States to receive a black belt in Shōrinji-ryū Karate Do. Rinzai Derivan tells us how he met his first instructor, Mr. Masayuki Hisada.
My primary instructor was, at that time his rank was Sensei Masayuki Hisada, and I met him in Brooklyn at the School of Scientific Judo and Karate at the Brooklyn Academy of Music back in 1965.
Can you describe how you felt, or how did it make you feel the first time you saw him?
Well, this was new for him being in this country, and it was new for myself being instructed by an Oriental person. And the relationship was good. He had something that I wanted, and he was the one to give it to me. You pay for what you get.
Excellent. Okay. Why did you choose Shōrinji-ryū over other styles?
I went to the school because my co-worker was learning karate at the Brooklyn Academy. And one day in the locker room, one of the employees was teasing him about this karate thing. So after it was over, I asked him where did he go to school at. He said, come with me. So one night him and I got together and I went out there to watch a class.
Okay. What did you see that first class?
The first class was him being on the mat. He was a brown belt at the time, and other students with the ranks of green belt and yellow belt and white belts. And we watched them do, I watched them do a whole class. An hour and a half worth of class, the exercises, the punching of the board, the different comites, the fighting forms, and of course at the end, everybody fought. And that was it. It was very interesting.
Shihan Thomas Carmelingo from Richmond County Martial Arts also had a positive experience the first time he met his instructor, Mr. Taemin Kajimoto.
Okay, my primary instructor was Shihan Tomin Kajimoto, and it was 1977. I bumped into the school. I had left another style and wanted to continue. And I walked in his dojo. He's sitting at the desk. I introduced myself, said I wanted to sign up, and I also wanted to sign up a good friend of mine, Rinzai Charlie. And he looked me up and down, did I ever practiced before? I said yes, I was a green belt in the dojo. And proceeded to tell me how I was no longer a green belt if I started with him. Fine. Very straightforward attitude, no smiling. And I remember when I got up, I thanked him, and he just looked at me and he pointed a finger. He says, you bring a towel, because you're gonna sweat. And I went to the door, and he looked at me and he went, us! I had no clue what that meant, because where I came from, it didn't exist. And he goes, you us! So always showed me how to us before I even started my first class. So the fear was put in me, and that was it. I continued.
Okay.
From its inception, Shōrinji-ryū recognized that each one of its students has a different set of physical, mental, and spiritual attributes. Part of an instructor's responsibility is to develop a training regimen that is catered to the student. At the same time, this regimen must set boundaries for the individual that conform to the essence of the style. This is the basis for Shōrinji-ryū's motto, spiritual development of individuality in mind and body.
The other forms, for whatever reason, I liken them to the Marine Corps. They're so, the other styles rather, they're so rigid in their thinking, and there's no flexibility, and there's no adjustment to take into account the different physiognomy of different individuals. And I found with Shōrinji-ryū the fact that, hey, Yamazaki and Asataka kick differently. That's, I'm trying to do what Yamazaki does, and then I'm trying to do what Asataka does. And then it took me a while to figure out I'm supposed to do what my body will let me do. But once you realize that, what you're doing is playing to a person's strengths. Just like if you have 11 people on a football team, they can't all be quarterbacks. Everybody's cut out to do something a little bit differently. What Shōrinji-ryū does is just common sense. It plays to a person's strengths instead of forcing them to go lockstep, even if they're a little bit weaker if they do something the official way.
Shihan Carmelingo tells us how this benefited him.
I liked it because it suited me. I was always big. And you would think that in Goju, a linear style, that big would be better. But I really did not coordinate well in that style. And in Shōrinji-ryū, I just moved. I moved. He told me how to move my hips. The instructors were not macho, although they were very rough, the Shōrinji-ryū instructors. And I started learning very fast. I felt very comfortable with the whole thing.
Once the student steps over the threshold of the dojo and onto the shiaido, then and only then does the actual education begin. Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do is a full contact martial art. Therefore, sparring, or shiai in Japanese, is an integral part of the training. To prevent injuries and to focus the students' techniques, protective equipment was developed. This protective equipment is called bogu, Japanese for armor. Hanshi Brian Aarons from Sekikan Kinkokan Kodakaru was one of the first Canadians to receive a black belt in Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do. He recants his first experiences with the Bogu.
From the first day. What was interesting is even though there was a history of Kenkokan in the United States prior to Masayuki Hisataka coming to Canada, we really had no knowledge of it. So consequently, when we first started, about 2 to 3 months later, we had our first grading, and we had no clue as to what this was about. As a matter of fact, the Shiai time was 5 minutes, very much like the Judo. Wow. Because we all came from Judo, so it was 5 minutes, just pure battle. And so from the very outset, we used the Bogu. The fact was, Dr. Kori Hisataka believed that you had to test your technique. Almost every style that I looked into was more like a sport, where you pull back on your techniques. And speaking about our origin is Shōrinji-ryū Kenkokan Karate-do, everybody that will be looking at this sort of thing came from that source. And that was a true test. It's like taking swimming lessons but never going down on the water and getting wet. It's impossible. Because you had ideas, oh, you could do this, or I punched you, or the guy's 2 feet away and you throw a technique and you figure it's going to work, and that's BS. All you got to do is fight in a bar a few times or get in a few street fights and you see how different it is. And I found that with Kenkokan you actually tested your technique. And there's, for the most part, no doubt whether you scored or whether you didn't score. And
in the United States, the experience was not much different. Rinsei Danny Hayes from Shōrinji-ryū Kenyukai Karate, who trained with Mr. Minoru Morita in the early 70s, tells us his experiences.
To be quite frank, I would say it was somewhat brutal. I mean, I enjoyed it. I should say, I enjoyed it despite myself. I mean, I was scared to death. I broke some bone every week. Every weekend I went home bleeding. I went to class once a week, only on Saturdays, because I needed a week to heal and because I didn't have enough money to go more than that. But back then it was $20 for the month to go once a week. And I was paying it for myself, and riding my bike there once in a while. And we used to fight with the hard bow. The old Bogu, the black Bogu, and no hand pads, no feet pads, nothing was allowed. Groin was a legal target area, so you wore the kinata to protect your groin area. And I was 13 years old. I couldn't have been more than 90 pounds. And I was fighting people like Greg Warner and these guys were 25, 30 years old. Greg was 6 foot something, So when I got hit, and back then I'm thinking to hit me as hard as they can, but I'm sure that they were holding back a little bit. Maybe more than a little bit, but you never know. And all I know is that my mother never stayed to watch a class, never came to watch a class, because after the first 2 weeks we were fighting, in every class I'd come home and I was bleeding all over the place, and she didn't want to come and see that. Or my hand was broken, or my foot was broken, or my arm was broken, or whatever. So rather than getting nervous and pulling me out, she just either dropped me off in the parking lot or sent me there on the bike. So it was it was real fighting. It wasn't sparring. That's why they call it Shiai and not Kumite. If it wasn't for the Bogu, this would be just another Karakistan. Yanzen Bogu offers us the opportunity to taste the true meaning of combat. Number 2 in Dojo-kun, right? If we don't taste the true meaning of combat, we never test ourselves. We never fulfill the aspect of fear. We never fulfill the aspect of accomplishment. We never have our back against the wall. So we don't ever really see ourselves. Karate is all about self-development, seeing yourself, defining yourself and your place as well. Therefore, you have some place to go, but you can't go anywhere if you don't know who you are. Right? You want to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been. So the Anzen Bogo is how we define ourselves.
Kyoshi John Mirioni, who started training at the Brooklyn Academy of Music in 1965, explained some of the problems with Bogu training.
It has its merits, and then it also could hinder the development of karateka. The benefit is that you actually learn to deploy your techniques with full power without any concern for injuring the partner that you're working with. Hindrance, on the other hand, or the other side of the coin, is that the person wearing the bogu may feel overconfident that, in fact, if they do get hit, they won't be hurt. So it has its good points, it has its bad points. I think that wearing it certainly restricts body movement. Maybe some of the newer bogu are more designed better and allow you to move more fluently. But bogu is bogu, and it restricts your movement. That's also another negative. I remember when Kashimoto changed from Shōrinji-ryū to Nanzin Kai, he made us remove the bogu. And he said, okay, now you're going to fight without it. And everybody was startled. I'll never forget the first class. We all sort of looked at each other and said, uh-oh, somebody's going to get hurt. And found out that nobody got hurt because we were just moving out of the way. We didn't want to get hit. People who would otherwise charge in because they had the bogu on were now learning how to move really quickly to get out of the way of the technique. So the plus side of it is that the bogu may give people a false sense of confidence. When not wearing it, you need to get out of the way and maybe learn more sabaki, right? However, the benefit of the bogu again is when you want to learn sabaki and somebody wants to throw a technique at you and try to hit you, and maybe you're not quick enough, at least you can avoid being hurt.
Shōrinjiryu training is not limited to shiai. Single-person prearranged forms, called kata, are a major component of the curriculum. Shōrinjiryu kata is a reflection of its lineage. The emphasis on footwork and movement, coupled with a flowing series of techniques, the use of an opponent's size and weight to one's advantage, are all fundamentals of Chinese martial arts. The maximization of efficiency and the limitization of wasted motion are maxims of military philosophy and training. Grappling, choking, and throwing techniques were incorporated from Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, and Judo. All of these elements combined make Shōrinjiryu kata unique. This is one of the many reasons students choose Shōrinjiryu over other martial arts.
Because first you have to understand what a kata is. And a kata has got to reflect your personality. And all the katas, there's a reason why they're there. And katas are grammar of karate.
Rinche Hayes explains how kata was taught in the 60s and 70s.
You didn't learn one kata then. The Japanese taught very differently than the Americans teach. You learn laterally there, so I learned the Hanshin and Sanshin at the same time, and Renju Kumite and Renju Kumite Ni at the same time.
Finally, the last component of Shōrinjiryu are the multi-person, prearranged forms called kumite. These forms enable the students to practice their combat skills in a safe and controlled environment. All parties know the series of techniques, so injuries are highly unlikely. Distance, timing, and technique are required from all parties to make kumite an effective training device. Because kumite represents fighting, shiai and kumite are very closely related. Kiyoshi Mirioni explains how shiai and kumite were combined in his first few classes as a student.
Shiai was taught in a way where you would make contact while you were doing your yakusuko kumite. So they would have one-point fighting, but you would do the kumite and you would make contact during the kumite. And maybe it was just one kick or one punch, but you would make contact while you were doing, let's say, Rinse Kumite number 1, or maybe one of the yakusuko kumite forms. You would actually make contact with a punch or with a kick. So that's pretty much the way you learned, or you got introduced to kumite.
The three facets of Shōrinjiryu, kata, kumite, and shiai, form a system of self-defense which will inevitably help prepare a student for any situation in life. But one may wonder what the differences among the three are. According to Kiyoshi Lubitsch, there are no differences between the three. With each, you are trying to defend yourself and defeat an opponent. This explanation is the root of any martial art. What is the future of Shōrinjiryu Karate-do? No one can say for certain what that will be, but the martial artists of Shōrinjiryu, just like jewelers, musicians, or filmmakers, want to ensure the survival and growth of their art, its longevity. Longevity is a measure of success over a period of time. The key elements of longevity are 1. Maintaining core attributes, strengths, or truths. And 2. Expanding, discovering, or developing new core attributes, strengths, or truths. For Shōrinji-ryū, this means adapting to a rapidly changing society. Developing a greater understanding and appreciation for kata and kumite while perfecting their application. And maintaining the ideals of Shinan Hisataka. Rinzai Darabin succinctly sums up the course for Shōrinji-ryū.
I'd say the same way they did in the last one. Just do better.
Being the Shinzen organization, trying to bring the various schools together.
Well, that's always going to be there, trying to bring the schools together, having a strong head, a main headquarters. Don't abuse the position. Don't abuse the position, and be open-minded to all those that want to join, all those that have ideas to improve. To improve anything, there's really nothing negative to it. It's got to be positive when you want to improve something. So get more students, and you definitely press that on them. There's no more Bruce Lees, and what you see in the movies is just what it is. It's a choreography. It's a big dance to make it for people to come see. But if you keep the theory and the pledge of what the spirit is in karate, it's going to be there. It's going to always be there.
Hanshi Brian Aarons also explains how Shōrinji-ryū can keep its core attributes strong.
The group that we had started in 1989 was devoted to preserving the style and the robustness of the style of karate that we had been taught by Masayuki Hisataka. And essentially that was everything goes. Head contact, groin contact, sweeps. And I think the most important thing was that Masayuki Hisataka taught us, tried to show us, was to constantly shine our spirit. And the dojo, and the training in the dojo became a microcosm that we tried to shine this so-called spirit and develop it, and then allow it to expand out into our daily lives.
Shōrinji-ryū is not flawless. It has its areas to develop. Before the doubt of longevity can be lifted, the schools of Shōrinji-ryū must align themselves into a cohesive unit and follow the policy of the adopted organization. Kiyoshi Loren agrees with this.
The leaders of Shōrinji-ryū nowadays understand that, hey, let's forget about politics. Let's forget about all that. Let's forget about the past. And let's get together, let's have fun. And it doesn't matter how you call it, it's all the same. Okay, and I think that's what we have to keep working on as far as in the future, and trying to get the other countries as well. You know, the styles don't make the men make the style. So that's what I believe. You have good fighters, you have good martial artists in any style, not only in Shōrinji-ryū. That will be very narrow-minded and foolish to say we're the only good style. I believe it's the best, that's why some other people believe that some other styles are better, that's fine with them. And not only Shōrinji-ryū teach the spiritual way of martial arts. Now, yes, Shōrinji-ryū, of course, teach Shōrinji-ryū give you all the right tools. But people are not using the tools correctly, or they are. So, some do, some do not, maybe. So, but if someone fail, you cannot blame it on Shōrinji-ryū. You have to blame it on
the individual.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, Shōrinji-ryū suffers from a lack of visibility. The public and media exposure Shōrinji-ryū receives inside and outside the martial arts community must increase before it can be recognized as the powerhouse that it really is. But ultimately, the real future of Shōrinji-ryū lies squarely in the hands of its practitioners and instructors. They must make an effort to ensure its survival. My name is Tashe Vincent Capers Jr. The producers of this program and I hope this video has been educational and enjoyable to to you as it has been to us. Keep shining your spirit. Bless. For more information about Shōrinji-ryū Karate-do, please contact the Shōrinji-ryū Shinzen Kyokai by writing Shōrinji-ryū Shinzen Kyokai, P.O. Box 210160, Woodhaven, New York 11421. Or, for those with internet access, our website is www.shorinjiryu.org. That's www.shorinjiryu.org.